Okay. Good morning, class. Good morning. Naka-start na yung ating video para makapag-discuss na tayo. Ayan. Again, ulitin ko lang para doon sa kapapasok lang. Yung inyo pong midterms ay yung pong inyong mga na-submit na yung ating activities, which is yung normalization last time, at saka yung inyong past activities, yung inyong participation dun sa ating mga ginagawang activities tulad nung sa ginawa nyo sa mobile, which is yung sa SQLite at saka sa Access. Ayan, kung natatandaan nyo. Kaya po, dun sa hindi pa po nagsasubmit ng inyong mga activity last time, yun sa normalization, pakisubmit na po. Dahil yung doon ko po kukunin yung inyong midterms. Okay po? Ayan. So, moving on. Kanina, ine-explain ko yung application ng normalization doon sa inyong gagawing website, no? Siguro naman naiintindihan nyo na kung anong dahil iiwanan na natin yung ating normalization, no? Yung normalization, review lang natin, no? Ang purpose niyan is to eliminate redundancy sa data. So, yung mga data na paulit-ulit sa database, okay, ang way para ma-eliminate yan is to use normalization, no? So, meron tayong UNF to 1NF, and then 1NF to 2NF, and then you have 2NF, and then you have 3NF, no? Meron pang mas mataas, which is yung ating fourth normalization or BCNF, no? Kung that will be applicable kung medyo libo-libo na or milyones na yung data, no? Meron pa ring pwedeng salain, no? Okay, kung gano'n nakalaki, no? So, that is the application. Doon nga, sa pinakita ko kanina, doon sa website, medyo hindi strict yung ating gagamiting website, yung Wix, no? So, hindi niya nakita yung double entry, no? Kailangan mo siyang manu-manuhing linisin, no? Kung meron kang double entry, no? Hindi katulad doon sa Access, no? Kaya hindi nga natin magamit na sample doon sa ating last time na activity dahil very strict siya, no? Nakikita niya agad yung redundancy, no? So, nag-a-apply agad yung mga integrity. Okay. So, gusto ko lang na ipinakita ko lang yun sa inyo, yung website dito kanina, yun sa in-share ko, para nakikita nyo yung practicality ng application ng database, no? Kasi, although nag-work lang siya sa background, wala kayong masyadong gagawin, I'd like you to know how is it working in the background in terms of the practical application in your project, no? Which is yung website na gagawin ninyo, no? Para nagagets ninyo kung para saan ba yung normalization, no? Bakit natin kailangan yung normalization? Ayan. Okay. So, mag-move on na tayo sa normalization. We're going to move now to a different topic, which is also very important in terms of its application to your project, which is ERD. Now, bago tayo mag-move on dun sa ating topic, ating next na topic, which is yung ERD, meron pa ba kayong question, no? Maliwanag po ba yung ating requirement para sa ating midterm? Ayan. Say your piece now. Hello, class. Hello po. Wala na. Maliwanag na, ha? Okay na? Okay na? Maliwanag na?
Yes po.
Okay, good. Okay, so moving on na tayo dun sa ating ERD. Okay. I-share ko lang yung ating video. Una muna para may idea tayo kung ano yung ating pag-uusapan. Yung ating pag-uusapang bago is ERD. It's conceptual data modeling, no? Entity relationship diagram. So ano yung ERD, no? Okay. Ito yan, no? So yung ating more on relationship, no? Ito yung sample ng ating ERD. So, bago natin i-run through, okay? So, ERD, it's an entity relationship diagram. It's a modeling tool used to represent data as entities. Ayan. So, yung data natin, okay, doon sa ating website, katulad nito, no? Okay, yan. Okay. So, a graphic, no, is a data. Yung description dito, that's a data, no? So, yan yung ating entities. Yan yung ating mga entities. Ayan. Okay, halika natin. Right. So, para saan ba yung ERD? ERD is widely used to model business problem, no? It is a tool to be able to design database, no? So, yung ating mga data, yan ay representation, no? Doon sa ating diagram, no? Ayan. Okay. So, para mas maintindihan natin, makinig tayo doon sa ating teacher, si Teacher Taylor. Ayan. Nakikita nyo ba yung screen? Ipapanood lang ako sa inyo. Nakikita po yung screen natin?
Opo.
Okay. So, pakinggan po natin si Taylor.
From Lucidchart. Today you'll be learning all about entity relationship diagrams, or ERDs. We're going to start off by discussing a high-level overview, and then together we'll dive in and build an example together, complete with entities, attributes, relationships, and cardinality. By the end of this video, you'll be able to build an entire entity relationship diagram from scratch. Have you ever wondered why you get an error message telling you that your ideal Twitter handle is already taken? Or how Amazon can keep track of so many different orders and customers and products? The answers to these questions lies within the creation of a database, which, in other words, is a collection of information that is organized so data can be easily stored, managed, updated, and retrieved. Now, there's a lot of moving information in a database, and understanding how the many elements of a database interact with each other can be difficult to grasp. Engineers need a visual way to understand how all these separate elements are related to each other and how they're working together. To show this, they build entity relationship diagrams. So let's talk about how you're going to make these ER diagrams. You can draw them out with pen and paper, but it's going to be way easier for you to use a diagramming tool. Today, I'm going to use an easy-to-use tool called Lucidchart, and you can too, for free actually. By clicking on the top right corner here, you can access Lucidchart's website, enter your email address, and have a free account in just a few seconds. That way, you can follow along with me and continue building your own ER diagrams as well. Before we can create an actual ERD, we need to better understand the individual components of the entity relationship diagram. And this is going to start with entities, which are an object, such as a person, place, or thing, to be tracked in the database. For example, in the case of buying something on Amazon, let's say a Snuggie, an entity could be a customer, an order, and lastly, we can't forget our Snuggies, the product. Now, each one of these entities is going to have what we call attributes, which are various properties or traits. In this case, under the customer entity, we have a customer ID, first name, last name, street, city, zip, and phone. It's important to remember that the entities in your database will be the rows, and that the attributes in your database will be depicted as the columns. Now we have the different entities and the different attributes on the screen here, but now let's talk about the relationships that exist between these different entities. The relationships describe how these entities will interact with each other, if at all, and you do that by drawing a line in between them. So when I draw a line in between these particular elements, I'm showing that there is some sort of interaction or connection in some way. Now that we have our relationships in place, you'll see some funky notation attached to these lines. This, in fact, is called the cardinality, which further defines the relationship in a numerical context, particularly within minimums and maximums. So for example, here on this right side, you can see some different types of cardinality we have in our diagrams. We have one, many, one and only one, zero or one or many, zero or many. Now don't be afraid if this isn't making sense quite yet. We're going to walk through some examples that will help you understand this perfectly. So let's talk about the relationship and the cardinality that exists between a customer and the order. Now the best way to do this is to think about it logically. We have to think about what is the minimum number of orders that a customer could have, and what's the maximum number of orders that a customer could have. So let's start with minimums. What is the minimum number of orders that a customer could have? Well, a customer could exist, but he or she could have 0 orders. So to show that over here, we'll have that 0 sign. Now we have to think about the maximum. What are the maximum number of orders that a customer could have? Well, as you probably already know, a customer can have infinite orders. In the case of Snuggies, you can never just have one Snuggie. So to show that, we'll use this 0 or many crow's foot notation. Now let's talk about the minimum and maximum relationship between orders and customers. So we ask ourselves the same questions. What is the minimum amount of customers that an order may have? And what's the maximum number of customers that an order may have? Now a specific order can only have one and only one customer. Well, you can imagine the confusion that could come if the same specific order had lots of customers. So in this case, there can be only one and only one number of customers to an order. And we can show that using this sign here. So now let's talk about the relationship or cardinality between orders and products. So we'll ask ourselves the same question. A certain order can have how many products? Well, for an order to exist, it has to have one product. But a lot of different products can be comprised of that order. So to show that on our diagram, we'll change this notation. Now we ask ourselves that question in reverse. A product can be a part of how many orders? Well, a product could be a part of no orders, but it also could be a product of many orders. So we're going to use this 0 or many notation on our diagram. So now you've built your entire ER diagram, and we built something small here, but now you have the foundation and framework that you need to build complex, complete entity relationship diagrams. Although this can seem a little bit overwhelming at first, just be sure to walk yourself through that logic, and you'll be able to build entire complex ERDs. You'll also see on this diagram that there are some unfamiliar objects, such as PK and FK, which refer to primary keys and foreign keys. Something that we're going to be covering in a video coming soon, so stay tuned. Additionally, if you need to actually have this diagram to be database ready, you can use the import and export features of Lucidchart to have all of that done automatically for you. Using the export feature, you'll have that code automatically generated for you and exported to the database management system you're using. Thanks for watching this tutorial on ER diagrams. Subscribe to our channel below to get access to more helpful videos and tutorials. Leave a comment as well if you have any thoughts or questions on ERD. And don't forget, sign up for a free Lucidchart account by clicking on the link in the top right corner. Thanks.
Okay, diretso lang yan. Two-part yan.
Hi, my name's Taylor, and I'm going to walk you through some advanced ERD concepts. Today we're going to be going over primary keys, foreign keys, bridge tables, and then really understanding how ER diagrams help you see exactly what's going on in your database. So let's start where we left off, with our very simple diagram from the previous tutorial. So we've got entities for customer, order, and product, and the correct cardinality between. You'll notice that next to each attribute is the word key. This column is here so we can distinguish certain attributes as either primary keys or foreign keys. Let's start with primary keys. This is probably easiest to understand if we step out of the diagram and into the table it represents. Remember, each entity in your diagram represents a table within your database. So let's look at the customer entity as a table with rows and columns. We've got all these different instances of the customer here, and if you're Amazon or something, you've got millions of customers all within this table. Wouldn't it be nice if you could use a single trigger to quickly and accurately distinguish who's who in this massive list? That's where a primary key comes in. A primary key is an attribute or field that uniquely identifies every record in a certain table. And since a single attribute can accomplish all that, it makes sense that you'll just need one primary key per entity. So for this customer table, the primary key is going to be a value that makes it so that this customer is unlike any other customer in our table. For one of these attributes to qualify, there are a few rules. First, a primary key has to be unique, so that it identifies only one record in your table. Second, it needs to be never changing. It'd be pretty difficult to keep an accurate record of your customers if you're using an attribute that might not stay consistent. And finally, a primary key needs to be never null. That just means there wouldn't be an occasion where the value could be left blank. So let's look at a specific customer, like John here, and determine what data might uniquely identify him. Well, you can't rely on names because two totally different customers could very easily share the same first and last name. There's a John Smith here and a John Smith here, but they're two completely different customers, so it's not a unique record in this table. You can't even rely on an address because you could have two separate customers living at the same place. Or a customer could move and then their address changes. So an address isn't unique and breaks the rule of never changing. Same thing for a phone number. So that leaves us with customer ID. By design, any sort of ID is typically programmed to increment for each addition to the table. This customer signs up and is assigned customer ID 30016. Then this customer signs up and is assigned 30017, and so on. You can see how customer ID passes all our rules. John's customer ID will completely identify him as a particular instance in our database, and that value won't ever be repeated in this table. So we're going to make that our primary key. Here's something interesting to think about while we're on this topic. Have you ever tried to create a username for an account and then later wanted to change your username to something else because it was hard to remember or stupid or something, but then you can't because the site won't let you? Well, that's probably because your username is being used as a primary key in that site's database, and primary keys can never change. That's how the site is linking you, the customer, to your account. They don't let you change that primary key because their system relies on it for accurate records. Or how about when you're setting up a new account and you try to create a username, but get an error message saying that it's already taken? Again, this could be happening because the username is being used as the primary key, and a primary key can't be repeated. In our example though, we're just using a randomly assigned customer ID number as our primary key. We know this will always be unique and never repeated. So let's jump back to our diagram and note this by putting PK next to our customer ID. And I'll go ahead and quickly clear out all this other text to make things clearer. Now let's apply those same rules to find primary key for our other entities. Let's quickly jump into the order table that this order entity represents and zero in on a specific instance. Here, it looks like our customer, John, placed an order to go to this address and it shipped at this time. Looking at the data, what could be our primary key? We already know names and addresses are no good, and ship date isn't going to work either. Two orders could be shipped at the exact same time, so that's not a unique attribute. It's pretty clear that order number is the primary key. So we put PK next to that attribute in our diagram. And finally, we can look at the table that this product entity represents. Let's say our customer, John, purchased this product here, a beautiful Snuggie. You know by now that product ID is going to be the primary key in this table. So we note that in our diagram too. Each of these primary keys is unique, never changing, and never null. So you probably noticed that I'm using a diagramming software to modify these ERDs, but just know that the same concepts apply if you're drawing them out on pen and paper. But if you want to make things easier on yourself, you can sign up for the diagramming software that I'm using, for free actually. It's called Lucidchart. All you have to do is pause the video, click on the card in the top right corner, and sign up for an account. All it takes is an email address and you can follow along with me. So now that we have our primary keys nailed down, let's talk about foreign keys. A foreign key is the same as a primary key, but just located in a foreign place. Maybe you have a primary key in one entity, but it'd be really helpful to pull that data into another entity. That's where you get a foreign key. And we want to make note of these foreign keys so we can better understand how our entities relate to one another. Let's see how this plays out in our diagram. We've already established customer ID as the primary key for the customer entity, but that same attribute is also over here in the order entity. Why? Because for each order we record, we want to know exactly which customer placed that order. The order entity is simply referencing the customer ID from the customer entity. That makes it a foreign key here, so we'll mark it as such. And we can further show this relationship in our diagram by adjusting this relationship to line up with the primary and foreign keys. Just move these crow's feet to line up with the PK and FK attributes. It reinforces the fact that this foreign key in the order entity is referencing the primary key of the customer entity. Let's review how this foreign key works by looking at it in the order table. So here are all our orders. If we look at a specific order, it has a customer ID of 30016. This is a foreign key because it references the primary key in the customer table. Now we know exactly which customer we're dealing with when we look at this specific order. So John made this order here, but look farther down. The same customer ID is repeated because John placed another order. Unlike a primary key, foreign keys don't have to be unique. They can be repeated in a table. If John's an avid shopper, his customer ID is going to be repeated a lot. Another difference between primary and foreign keys is that there can be multiple foreign keys in one entity. Let's say for each order, we also want to know what product is being sold. We'd add product ID to our table. And this is what it would look like in our diagram. We just add another field, type in product ID, and since product ID is a primary key over here, that makes it a foreign key in this entity. Now we have two foreign keys in our order table. There's also something called a composite primary key. Composite primary keys are used when two or more attributes are necessary to uniquely identify every record in a table. So let's say we created a shipment entity, and it's got these attributes here. And then let's take a look at what the corresponding table might look like in order to explain this better. Let's say John ordered a regular Snuggie and then a zebra pattern Snuggie. It's all one order, but they're getting sent in two different shipments. When we look at these two rows and each of these attributes, we wouldn't be able to rely on any single one to give us a unique record. The product number is duplicated when someone else buys that same zebra pattern Snuggie. So it's not a unique record in this table. An order could be parsed into a couple different shipments, like John's was. So order number is also not unique. Charge card time would be duplicated if someone else pays for their shipment at the exact same time. And same for packing time and ship date. All not unique. So it doesn't look like any of these attributes will give us the primary key we're looking for. But what if we took two of these attributes and combined them to create a new unique value, like product ID and order number? Take those two values for any instance, combine them together, and you've got a value that won't be repeated. That's a composite primary key. Now the primary key for this shipment is different than the primary key for this shipment. You could technically call this a compound key because we're using two foreign keys, but usually people just say composite key as an umbrella term. Anyway, jumping back over to our diagram, you note a composite primary key with multiple PK marks. That doesn't mean there are two primary keys. It means that both of these attributes are needed to create a composite primary key. A couple rules here when making these. 1. Use the fewest number of attributes as possible. 2. Don't use attributes that are apt to change because that can make things messy. And you might ask yourself, why not just create a shipping ID attribute so we don't have to deal with this scenario? Well, you certainly could, and that's totally valid. It's actually quite a debate among some people if you should even bother with composite primary keys. But it all depends on the database you're creating, and if there are certain scenarios where a composite primary key makes sense. Another thing we can talk about here is something called a bridge table. When you're making your ER diagrams, it's important to ask yourself, is there anything else I should be recording into the database? Sometimes you'll have two entities connected to one another, but there's more going on between them than you're accounting for. That's when you need to use a bridge table. To illustrate this point, I'm going to strip down our diagram to just customer and product. Now, couldn't we just create a direct relationship between these two entities? A customer can purchase 0 or many products, and a certain product can be purchased by 0 or many customers. Sure, conceptually this works. But the way this is set up, you're not going to know when a customer purchased that product. You're not going to know if they bought all of them at once or if they returned to buy more at separate times. you're going to be in the dark on many details regarding the interaction between these two entities. And this issue often occurs when you've got a many-to-many relationship. That's where a bridge table comes in. A bridge table allows for an intermediary one-to-many relationship and gets you the information you're lacking. In this example, a bridge table would be the order entity. Let's put that back into the diagram. You can see how it breaks up the many-to-many relationship, and now, each time a customer purchases a product, we're going to have a record of that interaction in our order table. So as you build or modify your ER diagram, make sure you're asking yourself if you're getting all necessary information, and use bridge tables to capture that data. If you want to start getting a bit more specific with your ER diagram, you can do so by adding data types for each attribute. This can be really helpful, especially if you'll be doing some programming out of this diagram. So we use an entity shape with 3 columns, and we'll specify the type of data we want on the far right side. For customer ID, we'll return an integer. That's going to give us a number like 501422. And all these attributes here will be varchar, meaning you can use various characters and then set a character limit in parentheses, like this. So for phone number, for example, it's going to have to be 10 digits to fit the standard phone format. There are several different data types and things we won't get into, but just know that you can include these in your ER diagram if you want to get more technical. Now, we've added a lot of detail to this ERD, but what are we going to actually do with it? Building ERDs is a great way to conceptualize and visualize before you've actually built your database. But once you've built the whole ER diagram, you're going to need to translate it into a database management system, or DBMS. Typically, you'd have to just reference this diagram and then manually enter code to create the database. That's a lot of work. But here, Lucidchart allows you to export the diagram, and it will automatically generate the code you need for your database. You can see the table commands here with the entity it's referencing. Here are the attributes for this entity with the data parameters that we set. And it also notes our primary and foreign keys. Then you just specify which database management system you're using, copy the code, and paste it in. Your database is ready to go. It's a total time saver, and if you're a student with an assignment to make a diagram in a database, this is like cheating. It's so easy. Conversely, let's say you've already got a database created, but you want to visualize it. Anyone who's worked in a database management system knows that it's not exactly easy to see what's going on. But an ERD of that database gives you a visual layout. Well, you can just import the database here, and Lucidchart populates all your tables. Drag one out, and it automatically creates the entity with the appropriate attributes, primary keys, and foreign keys. And if you drag out another entity, the correct relationship will automatically connect between them. This is another huge time saver. You can quickly visualize your database, make changes in diagram form, and then pass those changes back into your database via code. Thanks for watching this tutorial on ER diagrams. Please subscribe to our channel below to get more helpful tutorials heading your way. Also, we're always curious. What other tutorials do you want to see? Please comment.
Okay. Right. So, that is ERD. Ang cute ni Taylor, no? Okay. Stop sharing. So, class, we're going to discuss ERD. But before we do that, I'd like you to download. Let's look for the link of Lucidchart. Alright. Close ko lang. Okay. Google. Okay. Lucidchart. Lucidchart. Alright. Okay. Okay. So, habang dinidiscuss natin ito at nakikinig po kayo po ay mag-download, sign up for free, at tayo ay magdi-deep dive na sa Lucidchart. Asan yung group nyo? Saan ang... Okay. Saan? Mawawala kayo. Hindi ko kayo makita. Eto. 1D kayo, no? Class?
Apo.
Okay. Ayan. Nilagay ko na sa sa ano natin, sa ating group. Paki-download po yung Lucidchart. And asan na yun? Ayan. Paki-download at tayo ay, as you are downloading, tingnan ko nga kung merong sa naka-mobile. Teka, tingnan natin kung merong. Okay. Google. Lucid chart for Android. Merong naka-Android sa inyo, no? Meron?
Meron po.
Okay, eto. Pwede nyong magamit to. Okay, ayan. Meron siya. Okay, copy. Lagay ko ulit sa... Meron bang naka-iOS? Meron ba naka-iOS?
Meron po, ma'am.
Okay, sige. May nakita ko kanina. Lucid for... Teka. Nangyari. Dito ka. Ayan. Lucid for... Okay. iPad. Ayan. Okay. Saan? Ayan, meron din. Okay. Copy. Pareho lang yun, diba? Yun sa, sa iPad, iOS. Isa lang yun, no? Okay, ito po yung naka-iOS. Ayan. Paki-download na po. And then, we'll start with ayan. Okay. Nasaan na yung akin? Ano ba? Sa pad ba ako nakashare? Ayan. Nakita nyo na? Doon sa nilagay ko na sa sa ating GC yung tatlong link. Okay, pang PC, pang Android, tsaka pang iOS. Sure. Okay, so paki-download na and then we'll start discussing, no? Okay, so gagamitin natin yan as we go along, no? Okay, so kung nakikinig kayo dun sa ating sa ating video earlier, matanong ko lang, para saan daw ba yung ERD? Para saan daw ba yung class? Okay. Siguro mas maganda yan. Nakikita ko yung pangalan ninyo para... Okay. Window. Ayan. Share. Ayan. Dito ako. Makikita ko na kayo. Ayun. Alright. Ayan. Right. Now, let's see. Kung nakinig kayo dun sa video. Now, para saan daw ba yung ERD? Bakit natin kailangan gawin yung ERD? At saka ano kaya sa tingin niyo yung practical application ng ating ERD sa inyong project? Ayan. Sa ating yung gagawin yung website. Ayan. Tingin nga natin kung na-gets niyo yung ini-explain ni Taylor doon sa ating video. Okay? Doon sa mga nakinig, hopefully kayo lahat ay nakinig. Tingnan ko nga, tawag nga tayo. Tawagin nga natin tong si Aling Maganda, si Patricia. Patricia, base doon sa napakinggan mo, no? Ano sa palagay mo ang dahilan bakit Bakit kailangan yung ERD? Si Miss Patricia Reyes. Patricia, andyan ka ba? Patricia, tinulugan mo na ako. Tinulugan mo na ako, Patricia. Malamig ba dyan sa inyo?
Ma'am,
Oh,
para po makita po yung mga relationship ng entities.
ayun. Ayan. So, bakit natin kailangan makita yung relationship ng ng entities? Ayan. So, tama siya, no? Para makita yung relationship ng mga entities, no? Kasi dun sa sample, no? Meron tayong relationship ng customer to product, product to order, order to product, order to customer. So, yun yung kanilang mga relationship. Pero, bakit natin kailangan makita yung relationship? Anong impact nun dun sa inyong data? Yan yung O, sige, Aldrin.
So, yung ERD po, or yung ERM is may chart na nakikita tayo para mas lalo natin maintindihan or ma-visualize kung paano yung connection ng isang entity sa other entity.
Okay.
For example, may gusto tayong i-change sa isang entity para yung changes na nangyari sa isang entity is ma-relate sa isang entity. Hindi na rin siya parang ma-update din po yung kabilang entity. Malalaman natin kung saan nagbabago yung data.
Okay. Thank you. You already said the important word. It's visualization, no? So, the word diagram itself in the ERD, no? You diagram, no? Entity relationship diagram. That's the main meaning of ERD. You visualize, no? Sinabi mo na, Aldrin, no? So, you visualize, you diagram, you organize, no? So, yun yung pinaka-purpose ng ERD. Once you're able to visualize, no, your database in a snapshot, no, with all its attributes, with all its entities, no. So, marami kang entities, kung marami kang association, no, nabe-visualize mo siya, nakikita mo ngayon yung relationship ng bawat isa. So, that's the purpose of the ERD, no. Kasi gusto mong makita kung paano siya magiging applicable, no, doon sa buong database, no. Nakikita mo siya in a nutshell. Yan. Yun yung importansya nun, no, yung visualization. So, you can organize. How will you use your entity? How will you establish the relationship with each other, no? Doon sa kanilang kung paano mo siya gagawin, no? Kung paano siya gagamitin, kung paano mo siya patatakbuhin doon sa database, no? So, yun yung purpose ng ERD. So, bakit din natin siya dinidiscuss, no? So, bakit din siya dinidiscuss? Pagdating doon sa application ng ating website na gagawin, makikita nyo ano ba yung relationship nung order mo pagdating doon sa customer, no? So, makikita mo ngayon, gusto mo makita yung relationship, no? Anong relationship ang titingnan mo? 1. Ilang order na ba ang nagawa nitong customer na to? Pwede. Now, ilang shipment na ba ang nagawa ng customer na to? So, yun yung mga tanong. Yun yung mga relationship, no? So, that's why it is important that you know exactly the whole overview of your database that is working in the background. Again, hindi nyo gagalawin yung no? Hindi naman nyo gagalawin yung website, no? Doon sa database dahil wala kayong access nun. Yan ay pinapatakbo kusa nung may-ari nung Wix, no? Basta ang importante lang sa akin, naiintindihan nyo kung paano siya nag-work sa background, no? Yun yung application ng ating practical application nitong ating dinidiscuss. Okay. So, yun yung ARD, no? It explains and it models the construct of the relationship of your data, no? Yeah, that is some sort of data modeling. Yung mo model, no? So minomodel mo yung mga entities according to your requirement, no? Ini-establish mo yung relationship nila, one to many, many to many, no? Ayan. 0 to 1, no? Ayan. So it's some sort of a map. Ayan. Okay. So that is ERD. Thank you for your replies. Ayan. So, ito yung ating material, no? Pina-download ko na kayo, no? Now, this is our definition, no? Okay, it's, like I said, yung ating ERD, it is a detailed logical representation of the data for an organization or a business area, no? It's a conceptual modeling tool, no? So, yung Lucidchart na pina-download ko sa inyo, hope you have already downloaded it, no? Gagamitin natin siya ngayon, no? Basic construct siya, no? So, ERD means entity relationship diagram. Ayan. So, we call it ERD, no? Okay, so ito yung ating mga terminologies na diniscuss na ni Kuya earlier, no? So, first is an entity. Okay? So, sige nga, para may kasama tayo sa discussion, no? Ano yung ating, para i-share natin, ayan. So, Kobe, ano yung entity? Pakibasa po. Kobe, andyan ka ba? Kobe, may audio ka? Mukhang may problema yung audio ni Kobe. Kobe, may problema yung audio mo. Hindi ka namin marinig. Ayan. Okay. Comment ka na lang to confirm. Wala eh. Hindi ka namin marinig. Okay. Wala ngang audio. O, sige. Tawag na lang tayo ng iba. Tawag na lang kami ng iba. Or we would like to try again. Wala kasing audio. Comment ka. Ay, okay. O, sige, tawag na lang ako. Okay. Si ano na lang, si Mahinay, John, Michael.
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay. So,
Ano po yung gagawin?
yung sa entities, pakibasa yung definition ng entities.
Entities. An entity is a person, place, object, event, or concept in the user environment which the organization wishes to maintain data.
Okay. So, entities, no? Ito yung sample natin dito sa website para makita nyo kung ano yung entity natin doon mismo sa database. Teka, share ko lang. Okay. Entire screen. Share. Okay. Dito tayo. Nasaan na yung aking products? Okay. So, dito sa setup ng website, no? So, meron tayo ditong entities, no? So, dito sa pinaka-interface ng para mabuo itong ating shop, no? Okay? Ito po yung ating entities, no? So, yung ating unang entity, product, no? Ayan. Okay. And then, this is another entity, which is yung inventory, no? Yung listahan ng lahat, no? That's another group. That's an object. And then you have also another entity here, which is collection, no? Ayan, isang buong collection. Then you have orders, no? Ayan, orders. Okay, wala pa akong order. Walang lumalabas na order. And then you have here contacts. Kung meron kang contacts, ayan. So, ang contacts dito ay kung sino yung nagmamanage, which is myself, no? And then, ayan. So, wala akong order. Wala akong ipapakitang order, no? Ayan. Plugs. Okay. Meron pala akong contacts, no? Tingnan ko nga. Pinakita niyang contacts. Contacts here is parang yung customer, no? Tingnan ko nga. Nakalagay sa contacts. Oh, aba. Meron na palang mga nag-order. Karen Egley. Okay. May mga nag-try na palang nag-order. Ayan. So, ayan po yung ating entities. Ayan. Balik tayo dito sa ating, no? So, an entity is a person, place, object, event, concept, no? In the user environment which the organization wishes to maintain, no? So, marami akong entities doon, no? Now, entity type. Tingnan nga natin yung ating entity type, no? Pakibasa nga po. Stop sharing. Okay, ibalik ko yung ating entire screen. Okay, share. Okay. Tawagin nga natin si Maria Teresa Clarice.
Yes po, ma'am.
Ano yung entity type? Pakibasa nga yung definition.
Entity type is described just once in a database using metadata. It is a collection of entities that share common properties such as employee, student.
Okay. So, dun sa yan yung description ng entity, Katulad ng sample natin dito, no? So, katulad ng ayan, nakalagay dyan, no? So, employee, student, patient, no? If it is a place, this is a storehouse, warehouse, province, no? So, yan yung parang, anong klase ba siya, no? Anong klase? Yan. Okay. So, anong entity type, no? Para sa data collection, no? Ayan. Okay. An entity instance is a single occurrence in the entity type or records, no? So, kung naalala nyo, ano yung entity? Siya yung naka-row, no? At yung naka-column ay yung attribute, no? Naalala nyo yan? So, entity, row, yung attribute pa column, no? Yung pa vertical, no? Ayan. So, attributes, It's a property characteristic of the entity type, no? Example dito, okay, you have attributes of the student, automobile, employee, entity types, ayan, student ID, student name, home address, ayan. Okay. So, relationship. Ano naman yung relationship? Okay, tawag tayo. Si Jason, Dadea.
Relationship, association representing an interaction among the entity types.
Okay. So, yan yung sinabi kanina, no? One to many, many to many. Okay. Yan yung interaction niya sa entity types, no? Meaningful association between entity types. Okay, so there is an instance of relationship, no? Ayan, so pakita lang natin. Again, yung entity, yung entity instance, no? Isang single, okay, single type, no? You have that as naka-row, okay? Yung ating attribute, pa-vertical, no? Again, pa-column, no? Ayan. Okay, so ito na yung ating relationship, no? So, ito yung in-explain kanina, no? So, pagka ganitong naka-triangle na ganito, no? Yan ay many, no? Many. So, itong employee to course, so, many to many ang relationship, no? Ito yung relationship instances. Okay, halimbawa, ito yung courses sa baba. So, ito si employee. Let's look at, nakikita nyo ba yung pinapakita ko? Na relationship?
Yes po.
Okay. So, we have here sample of, ano to, PDF? Correct? Nakikita?
Opo, yung relationship instances po.
Ayan, correct. Salamat. Okay, so we have here employee. Okay, yung employee, si Chen, si Melton, si Richie, si Selco, ayan. And then, ito yung mga courses nila, no? Ito yung courses na tinitake up nila, no? So, we have C++, Java, COBOL, Basic, Perl, SQL. Now, para makita nyo yung pagkakaiba ng relationship, iba-iba yung natin, no? Iba-iba yung ating lines, no? So, mula kay Chen, directly kay C++ na course, no? Merong in-establish na relationship, no? Okay, 1-to-1 lang yan, no? And then, etong si Chen, nag-ano rin siya ng Java. Ayan. Okay, isa. So, si Chen yung color blue. Ayan. Tapos, ang courses na tinake niya is C++, Java, at saka Basic. Ayan. Si Melton naman, yung kanyang relationship na color is black, no? So, nag-take up siya ng C++, COBOL, at saka Perl. Si Richie, okay, isa lang yung sa kanya, no? Yung Perl lang, no? Si Seco, Java, at saka SQL. Si Gosling, Java, at saka SQL, no? So, yan yung relationship nila. So, si Chen, mula doon sa tatlo, so, yung kanyang course ay course going to employee, many. Okay, many siya, no? Tapos, kay Chen, one, no? One si Chen going to many. Ganon. Kasi madami siyang course, no? So, dun sa kay Richie, which is si isa lang, 1-to-1 lang ito, no? Etong kay Seco, 1 to many, no? Si Gosling, 1 to many, kasi dalawa na siya. Okay. So, yun yung relationship instance. Okay. So, ito yung ating guidelines sa ating naming ng relationship. Okay. Ayan. So, a relationship name is a verb phrase, no? Such as assigned to, supplies, or sent. It represents an action being taken usually in present tense, no? Ayan. It avoid vague names such as has or his or related to. It is descriptive and a powerful verb phrase. Ayan. So, pag nag-name ka ng relationship, it has to be a verb, no? Verb siya, no? It's an action. Ayan. Characteristic of relationship, you have degree and cardinality, no? So, ano yung degree? Okay. At saka, gaano karami, no? Ayan. And then, you have the relationship number of entity types that participate in. You have unary, binary, and ternary. Ayan. Pag binary, one-on-one. Okay. Pag unary, one lang yan, no? Pag binary, dalawa. Pag ternary, no, marami na siya, no? Yun yung sa ating ternary. That's the relationship. Okay. So, one entity related to another same type, unary. Two entities related to the same type, binary. Entities of three different types related to each other, ternary. Ayan. Yun yung relationship degree. Okay. So, ito yung sample ng ating unary relationship. Okay? So, person is married to one-to-one, no? Siyempre, yan yung usual, no? One-to-one yung married relationship. Pwede rin naman na maging dalawa yan, halimbawa, kung sa Muslim, no? But, that's the usual magandang example kasi one-to-one yung marriage, no? And then, one-to-many, okay, you have here an employee, okay, and then management, no? Ayan. So, maraming empleyado na pwedeng i-manage ng isang tao, no? Or isang company. And then you have here sample of binary relationship, no? One-to-many, one-to-one, many-to-many. Ayan. Okay, katulad ng sample ng ating employee kanina na may course siya, no? Okay, yan ay one-to-many. Now, yung student, one-to-many course, no? Pwedeng maraming estudyante nag-register sa isang course. Pwede rin dun sa course, maraming pumasok na estudyante. Ayan. Okay. Tapos, ito yung ternary. Dun sa supplies, no? Maraming connection. Dun sa part number, no? Ayan. Dun sa warehouse, dun sa vendor, shipping, at saka unit cost, no? Okay. Now, ito yung cardinality ng relationship, no? Specify number of instance in entity type that can be associated in the instance, no? So, one-to-one, each entity in the relationship will have exactly one relationship, no? So, ang relatedness niya ay isa lang, no? One-to-many, an entity that has one side, yun yung may tatlong bars, and then 0. And then, many-to-many, yung bars niya tatlo, and then the other side tatlo rin, no? Okay. Ito yon, no? Ito, no? So, ito yung cardinality. Teka. Mahirap ano tong ano natin. Ayan. Ayan. Okay. So, ito ay one-to-one. Yan. One-to-many. Ito. Pag nakita nyo tong symbol, nakikita nyo ba yung nagmo-move ko na ano, na triangle, class? Nakikita nyo?
Yes.
Okay. So, this is yung cardinality, no? So, this is 1, 1, no? Ito yung ating line dito. Pag nakita nyo yan, kasi gagawa na kayo ng, mag-establish kayo ng entity relationship diagram. Magde-design tayo, no? And then, ito naman, no? Ito yung one-to-many, no? Pag nakita nyo yung bar na yan, and then nakita nyo ito yung triangle na yan, yan na yung many, no? So, pag in-establish nyo yung relationship nung ating database, dun sa yung ating entity, no? Entity between student entity and the course, no? Ito yung ating diagram, no? Kung ang relationship ng cardinality niya ay many to many, ito yung makikita nyo. Yan yung triangle na yan, no? Okay. So, yan yung ating cardinality. No? Cardinality constraint. The number of instances of one entity that can or must be associated with each instance in another entity. Okay. So, iyan yung ilang beses, ilang instance na pwedeng may i-associate yung isang entity to another entity. No? Ayan. So, there's a minimum cardinality. Okay? It's a number of instance entity B, for example, that can be associated with entity A. If the cardinality is 0, participation is optional. If the cardinality is 1, participation is mandatory, no? So, makikita nyo yan. Ito yan yung no? Okay. So, pag nakita nyo yung meron tayo ditong maximum and minimum, no? So, eto, no? Okay. So, ibig sabihin nung dalawang bar na ganito, mandatory 1, no? So, mandatory, ibig sabihin, minimum cardinality niya, participation ay isa lang, no? So, hindi ka na pwedeng lumampas doon. Yan yung ating cardinality constraint, no? So, in-establish niya na ang constraint ay isa lang, one best lang siya, pwedeng magkaroon ng association, no? Doon sa entity na yon, no? Okay. Tapos, mandatory many, no? Ibig sabihin, pwede siyang ma-associate ng maraming beses, no? Ito, no? Ayan. So, itong dalawang bar na to, pag nakita nyo, one time lang siya, no? One time. Mandatory 1. Ito ay mandatory many. Pwedeng marami, no? Ito, optional 1. Optional 1. Ito, optional many. No? Cardinality symbol express business rule. Bakit kailangan maglagay ng ganun, no? Kasi, kailangan lagyan ng constraint, no? Para magkaroon ng organization, no? May mga times na hindi mo siya pwedeng i-associate again and again, no? Katulad ng halimbawa, mag-o-order ka, tapos hindi ka pwedeng mag-order again and again, no? Halimbawa, sa inventory, meron kang, halimbawa, minamanage na number, no? Halimbawa, dun sa number ng inventory, kailangan nasa minimum ka ng 60, no? So, hindi ka pwedeng mag-order again hanggat hindi mo nauubos, or pwede kang mag-set. Halimbawa, pagpasok ng 10, no? Papasok na yung order, no? So, ine-establish yung cardinality, okay, bago magpasok ng bagong order, para ma-establish yung business rule, no? Kumbaga, hindi ka basta-basta makakapag-order agad hanggat hindi mo na mi-meet yung requirement na papasok na, magbamatic na pwede ka nang mag-order, no? So, yun yung isang example, no? Pwede rin na, halimbawa, no? Ito, maganda example, nakalagay dito, patient, no? Magbibisit yung patient. Kailangan ng schedule, no? So, kung hindi mo na-establish yung schedule, okay, kailangan, halimbawa, ang visit ng patient, kailangan siyang magkaroon ng secondary visit. Tapos, nakalagay na yung set na secondary visit. So, hindi siya pwedeng pumunta hanggat hindi mo na-meet yung date na yon. Okay? Hindi yung mababago, no? So, pwede lang siyang maulit pag natapos na yung date. Ayan. So, yun yung isa sa pwede nating maging example, no? Dito, ang example, okay, patient is assigned, no? Okay. Pwede lang siyang i-assign sa isang doktor, no? Ayan. So, yung patient history, ayan. Okay. Pwede siyang ma-access, no? Ayan. And then, dito, mandatory optional cardinality is assigned, ayan, no? Sa project. Ayan. So, option, no? So, pwede mo ring i-establish yung cardinality ng constraint if you would like to, say for example, security access, ganon. Lalo na sa mga accounting records. Ayan. Pwede nyo magamit yan dun sa business rule, no? So, again, ito ay ginagamit in order to establish a constraint that you think is important, especially kung security or just to maintain a database, no? Okay. Nilalagyan mo ng constraint, no? Which is your cardinality constraint. Ayan. Okay. Okay. Ito po yung sample ng optional cardinality. In this example, optional 1, a person may or may not be married. He is married. If he is married, and he is just married to one person. Ayan. Ayan ang pinakamagandang example, no? Okay. Hindi siya pwedeng maging, mas marami, no? Ayan. Okay, so this is another example. Okay. This is a customer may submit any number of orders. Ayan. And request on a product. Okay. However, each order must be submitted by exactly one customer. No? Ayan. And the order must request one or more products. Given the product may not be requested. Ayan. Okay. Okay, meron pa ditong strong versus weak entities. A strong entity exists independently with other types of entity and has its own unique identifier. It represents a single line rectangle. Okay. A weak entity dependent on strong entity cannot exist on its own and does not have a unique identifier, represented by a double line rectangle, no? So, meron tayong weak at saka strong entity, no? Ito yung, pag pinag-usapan yung weak at saka strong entity, yan yung dependencies, no? Okay. So, ibig sabihin, nagde-depend siya doon sa strong, no? Para maging independent, no? Okay. So, bakit meron tayong weak entity? Para lang may establish yung dependency niya doon sa strong entity, no? Yun lang yung niya, no? Kumbaga, tulad nitong sample natin dito, no? An employee is dependent, okay? An order is dependent on the employee, an order details, no? So, ayan. So, katulad dito, yung employee, yung dependent niya, meaning, limbawa, ano ba yung mga dependent na sinasabi natin ng isang employee? Yung anak, asawa, halimbawa, kapatid, ano ba yung mga dinideclare natin as dependent? Sino bang mga ano sa inyo? Ako pag nagde-declare ako ng tax, yung mga nagtrabaho na sa inyo, anong ginagamit nyong dependent? Ako ang ginagamit kong dependent, yung husband ko, yung nanay ko, yung kapatid ko. Ayan. So, yan yung ating naka-connect na entity dun sa ating employee. And then you have order dun sa kanyang dependent. Nakadepend na yung week, no? Which is yung order details. Ayan. Okay. So, eto na yung ating pagmamap, no? Minamap nyo siya para makita nyo yung details ng ating ER diagram, no? Okay. So, ayan. So, ito na yung ating mapping. Okay. So, meron tayo ditong employee ID, no? Ayan. Each regular entity, ERD, transform into a relation, no? By using a map regular entities, no? Okay. So, dito, yung sample natin, MIDs, okay. So, dito sa ating nakalagay dito, surname, first name, MI, birthday, no? So, these are the details. Okay. And then, you have map week entity types. Okay. Nakalagay. Emp name, surname, dun sa loob, no? Surname, first name. Dun sa emp name, no? Yan yung week entity. Okay. So, dinescribe lang dun sa loob, no? Ayan. Para sa maayos na mapping. Okay. Ayan. Okay. Right. Okay. And then you have binary relationship. Okay. Ayan. Nilagyan ng in-establish lang yung relationship ng employee tsaka dependent. Okay. Ayan. Nilagyan ng kung many to many, no? Ayan. Okay. So, let's download a database and do an relationship diagram, no? So, ayan. Okay. So, gawa tayo ng ERD. Ano maganda? Okay. Para maging applicable, gawa tayo ng sample na shop. Okay. Gamitin natin yung ating Lucidchart. Matapos nyo nang i-download, class.
Opo, ma'am.
Okay. So, na-download nyo na. Okay. So, ito yung ating activity. Okay. Nagda-download ako ng data. Tapos, i-upload ko. Gawin ko siyang Excel para mas madaling, sige. Excel na data. Tapos, i-upload ko sa, natin. Ano to? Okay. Google. Customer database, customer ano maganda, list, TCS, here don't TCS, Excel, here to, no, Excel, pwede ba? Dali lang. Ako, baka mapagalitan tayo nito. Teka. Customer list. Teka lang. Customer. Customer list example. Ito na lang. Okay. Ano nga yung XLS, ayan, para Excel mismo. Wala ba akong sample mismo? Wala ba akong pwedeng magamit? Ito. Wala bang download ng pre-list? May nai-realize example. Kailangan ko ng sample. Ito. Ayan. Okay. Ayan. Customer list. Ito. Pwede kaya ito. Customer data. Progress. Okay. Ito. Kailangan ko ng data. Pwede niyong manu-manuhin. Pwede. Ito. Customer list. Hindi na siguro tayo magkakaroon ng problema dito. Customer name. Ayan. Order date. Ayan. Ito. Maganda to. Okay. Okay. Copy image. Okay. Ayan. Okay. So, ayan. Pwede nating gawa ng ERD. Ito. Okay. Delete. Okay. Ito yung ating activity. Meron tayo dito. Nakikita nyo ba? Yung aking na pick up na data. Okay. Nakikita nyo, class? Hindi. Okay, hindi nga naman. Hindi ako nakapresent.
Hindi po, ma'am.
Ito na. Ayan. Share. Okay. Right. There. Ayan. So, meron tayo ditong ilang entity meron dito. Meron tayong order, customer, ayan, at saka may order, customer, ayan. Okay. So, dalawang entity to, no? So, meron tayong customer at saka dalawang order. Ayan. Tsaka order. Ayan. Pwede na siguro yung dalawa, no? Okay. Let's use this and establish yung relationship na makikita nyo dito, no? Okay. Sample natin yung ating Lucid. Ako ba'y nakapag-install na? Okay. Okay. Hindi pa ako nakapag-install. Dali. Nasaan yung inyong group? Dito ako. Ito yung sa akin. Okay. Okay. So, sign up for free. Okay. Continue for free. Continue with free. Sign in. Walang ano. Hindi pwedeng ano. Magic. Pain. Okay. Create account. Okay. Anong role ko? ID. Individual contributor. Visualize. Whatever. Model. Okay. Manage ID. Start diagramming. Oh! Alam ko pwedeng i-download. Ano pala to? Online?
Site lang po ata.
Site lang siya. Hindi pwedeng i-download. Daya naman. Start diagramming. Pagka siguro dinownload mo, may bayad, no? Ito yung hinahanap ko kanina eh. Ayan. So, yung mga nag-download sa mobile, ano yon? Ano rin? Kailangan online? Guys?
For viewing lang po yata, ma'am.
Ay, for viewing lang?
Hindi siya for create.
Sino yung mga nag-download ng Android? Anong nangyari? Doon sa Android, mag-react nga kayo. Hindi siya ano. Try ko nga sa teka. Try ko sa akin. Okay. So, teka. Dito ka muna. Tingnan ko nga sasampulan natin yung data. Itong data na to. Gawin natin ang sabay-sabay, no? So, we have 2, no? So, gawa tayo ng entity. Ang entity ay order at saka si order, si customer ID, no? So, dalawang entity to. Okay, sabay-sabay tayong gumawa. Teka lang. Tingnan ko muna yung ano. Sandali habang inaano natin. So, saan na yung ating online pala to, no? Okay. So, we will ano to? Okay. Icon state. Shape standard shapes. Okay. Shape standard shape. My flow chart. Okay. Ito, streamline na to. Streamline. Delete mo nga. Iyan. Okay. Ano to? Note. Ano to? Tapos ito, sharing with flow chart. Okay. Ito yun eh. Ayan. Ano to? Icon set. Liberation. Line color. Line. Endpoint. Delete. Ano to? Other lane. Delete. Okay. Nasaan na yung aking sa mobile Lucidchart. Install. Open. Sign up. Google. Brain. Blank diagram. Class, pwede kang mag-create. Create a blank diagram. Okay. Pwedeng mag-create ng ano, dun sa ano. Ayan o, meron na ako dito, nag-create na ako ng ano. Tapos, medyo mahirap nga lang. Sino yung nagamit ng ano, ng mobile? Paano pagka ano, nakapagsimula ka na? Okay, try natin anong ilalagay. May mga icon sa baba. Predefined process, manual input. Okay, internal storage, manual operation, delay connector. Okay, note, same line. Okay, same line. Pwede. Okay, ayun. Mapaglagay tayo. Tapos, lagyan mo siya ng text. Okay. Kung ang swimline mo, paano pag gusto mo i-delete? Okay. Pwede. Okay, swimline mo pa ganun. Ayan. Okay. Pwede mo nang lagyan ng text. Okay. Vertical. Right. Vertical. Okay. Right. Okay, lagyan natin ng text. Right. Okay. Text orientation. Text ba to? No. Dapat yan ito. Ayan. Okay. Lagyan natin ng kanta natin ng text. Okay. Paano ko to? Ayan. Paano ko lalagyan ng ano? Ayun. Ayun. Okay. Pangalanan na natin. Ngayon, ang ating order entity. Ito na. Order. Pwede ba natin tanggalin ito? Pwede ko bang i-delete yung buong ano? Remove link. Ayun, okay. And one more. Remove lane. Ayan, okay. And then, pwede kayang i-copy na lang to. Copy. Okay, nangyari. Control Z. Nangyari. Pwede bang i-copy ko to? Nangyari. Okay. Okay. Asan ang copy dito? Copy. And then ay, hindi gumagana yung ano.
Ma'am?
Oh.
Pag po nag-copy po kayo, nakasapi, parang nasa ibabaw po siya nung ano.
Ay, oo nga! Oo nga, ang dami ko na palang kinapi. Okay. Naloka. Hindi ko nakikita eh. Sana. Sana yun. Nasaan na yung lucid natin? Ano nangyari? Ayun. Oo nga, sandamakmak na. Teka, tatanggalin na. Wala na, no? Okay na to, no? Ayan. Teka. Ganun na. Dalawa lang. Okay. So, ayan, pwede na nating i-associate ito. Nasusundan nyo ba, class? Yung ginagawa ko? Hello, people? Okay. Didelete ko. Sino yun? Sino yun? Teka. Ay, may nagpipigback. Sino yun?
Abi, yung mic mo, Patrick.
May nagpipigback. Nandun takit na tinga. Teka. Okay. Teka. Ang hirap naman ito.
Ma'am?
Oh.
Meron pong sa shape po, pag nag-add po kayo, meron pong lalabas doon na entity relationship po.
Oo, ito nga. Teka. Ano ko lang tong, ay, nagla-login record. Login. Kanina pa nga, di ba nag-login na nga ako? Ano yung ginamit ko? pain5@gmail.com. Next. Weh. Teka. Caps lock ba ako? Hindi naman. Ginamit ko na ba to dati? Teka. Hala. Hindi ako makapasok. Ano ba yung ginawa kong password? Alam ko ito lang naman eh. Ano ba? Time reset link. Siguro nagamit ko na to dati. Time reset link. Okay. Mail. Okay. Wait. Nasaan na? Dito. Reset your Lucidchart. What's this link? Okay. Close. Teka, kailangan ko yan. Okay. Nasaan na? Okay, login. Okay. Teka, lagyan lang natin ng pangalan to. Ngayon, customer. Customer, tapos ano yung details? Ngayon natin. Ngayon muna natin yung details. So, meron tayong order ID at saka order date. Order ID, order date. Ito na yun. No. Not that. Kailangan ko ng okay. Kailangan nating establish yung nasa ilalim, yung dalawang line. Kailangan natin ng line. Saan ang line? Bakit naggagawa ng ganun? Kailangan ko lang guhitan.
Araw po ba, ma'am, yung gusto niyong gawin?
Hindi, gagawa ko ng ano dito. Nagawa ko ng, sige, square na lang. Ako lang, para may position na ako nung ano, kaysa nakalagay tayo text. So, sige, tingnan.
Meron po, ma'am, sa shapes po. Mag-a-add lang po. Meron na po dung nakalagay na layout.
Sa shapes? Dito?
Opo, meron po sa baba po ng shape. Add lang po. Yan po, ma'am. Add shape po.
Ito.
Opo. Tapos may data entity na po dyan, ma'am. Click po. Yung entity relationship po.
So yun, baba natin.
Ito po, ma'am, yung entity relationship po.
Ari pala. Hindi pala nakaklik. Kaya pala hindi natin nakikita. Ayan. Nagmano-mano tuloy ako. Okay. Tanggalin ko na to. Nagmamano-mano ako eh. Tapos maganda to. Hindi na tayo mahirapan. Okay, isa lang. So. Bibit-bitin mo na. Ayun. Ayan. Ay, diba? Buti naman, sinabi nyo. Hindi ako nagmano-mano. Kanina pa ako nagmamano-mano. Okay, plus. Okay, so itong ating unang entity ay order. Caps lock natin. Sorry. Order. Tapos, yung first ano natin, order. Ay, dito ka. Ito. Ito ka. Bakit ayaw mo? Ayaw pilitan. Okay. Right. Tapos ito pwede na nating i-copy, ano? Copy. Ayan. Then you have customer. Okay. So, yung ating so, pansin nyo, madaming order, no? Ano natin? Si customer ID niya, 11. Marami siyang. So, this is many to many, no? So, establish natin yung relationship niya. Balik tayo dito. Okay. Relationship. Okay. Okay. Now, ito ay i-edit natin. Lagyan natin ang konti. Okay, edit natin to. Gawin natin ganon. Ayan. Ayan. Pwede bang maiksi lang? Pangit naman na ito. Bakit kailangan ganyan? Okay. Kasi may kulang dito. Okay. Yung ating product na in-order. May nakalagay ba dito? Wala dito yung product eh. Anyway, so ito yung ating relationship dito para doon sa ating. Okay, kung titingnan nyo yung data natin, marami tayong customer. Halimbawa si Americano. Lakihan nga natin. Okay, si Americano 1 American Euro Styles. So, meron siyang okay, dalawang order dito na pareho. Ayan. Tapos, ayan. No? And then so, ayan. Establish na natin yung relationship nila. Okay. Okay. Tapos, gusto kong baguhin yung field. Dahil yung field natin ay Edit. Add note. Add comment. Add lock. Ano? Layer. My save. Move. Copy layer. Add present day. Expert. Ano tong add note? Oh, pwedeng ganun. Pwede pa rin siyang pwedeng mag-explain. Okay, fine. Gusto kong baguhin to. Gawin ko siyang okay. Edit. Pwede ko ba siyang i-edit? Style content. Oh, pwede. Okay. Okay. Class. Sino nakagawa? Sino nakasunod? Pwedeng patingin nung gawa nyo kung paano nyo ginawa. Sino yung okay, edit chart. None. Sino nakapag-establish ng ng endpoint, no? Ito yung para ma-establish yung relationship, no? I-click nyo lang yung area na yan, no? Yan. Kapag ka-click nyo siya, makikita nyo yung relationship, no? Ayan. Okay. Page setting. Canvas. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. So, tingnan natin yung gawa nyo. Sa sumabay sa akin.
Ma'am?
Yes. Time
yung na. Yung sa Lucidchart ko po, hindi na po siyang ERD option. Pagka kinlik ko po yung ERD option dun sa plus shapes, po siya na kailangan ko daw ng premium. Hindi ko po tuloy nagawa yung ginawa niyo, pero nahanap ko po yung sa yung ERD option.
Nakita sa ERD option.
Opo, nakita po
anong
yan.
gamit
Hindi ko
mo?
lang magawa.
Anong gamit mo?
Website lang po ng Lucid app.
Yung sa dito mismo sa PC.
Opo, sa PC.
Sa PC. Nag-register ka? Nag-login ka?
May gumawa po ng account kanina lang.
Kanina lang?
Opo. Kasi hindi ko magawa yung ERD, yung ginagawa niyo po kasi kailangan daw po naka-premium daw.
Naka-premium ang gawa.
Pero yung sa ibang classmate ko
Doon
po na
doon sa mga naka-mobile, na-try nyo bang gumawa? Kasi pwede ako magawa sa Android eh. Ito, ko sa ganun. Ayun. Cellphone. Tingnan ko kung mag-BlueStacks. Pwede rin sa BlueStacks. Teka, BlueStacks. 5 minutes na lang. Mag-alas 10 na. Gano'ng oras tayo? Hanggang 10 Yikes! Okay.
Yes po.
Ayan ako. Anyway, may 5 minutes pa. Sige. Subukan ko. So, yun yung concept ng ERD. At least na natin, no? So, next meeting, which is next year na. Tama, no? Next year na tayo magkikita-kita. Aba? Ayan. Teka lang. So, pwede nyong i-explore tong pagde-design doon sa Lucidchart, no? Kung paano nyo gagawin yung inyong website, no? Okay. Kung paano nyo i-organize yung inyong bilis.
Story of my life. Whatever be or...
Ano yun? Sino yun? Ano yung story of your life? Sino yon? Sino yung may story of your life? Sino? Sino yon? Okay, sandali lang. I-share ko lang yung aking ano. Pwede. Pwede siyang ano, pwede kayong gumawa, pwede nyong magamit yung Lucidchart sa ano, sa Android. Yung mga naka-Android dyan. Kaya kagawa. And recent apps. Oops. Close mo muna to. Okay. Teka. Kaka-download ko lang eh. Lilitaw na to. Ay, wala. Hindi pa pumasok yung bago kong download. Lucidchart. Okay. Ayan. Okay. Well, tagal. Anyway, pwede siya sa ano, kasi na-download ko na dito sa cellphone ko, no? Pwedeng, tingnan ko lang kung pwedeng mag-add. Diba sabi, sino yung naka-ano dun sa shapes? Tapos, dun sa ibaba, pwedeng mag-download. Libraries. Pwede magdagdag. Saan pwedeng mag-add? Ay, no, not that. Okay. Lucidchart. So, sige. Oras na. Anyway, balik tayo doon sa inyo, no? Stop presenting na ako. Okay, oras na tayo kasi. Okay, close. So, yun po yung concept natin ng ERD, no? So, bigyan ko kayo ng pag-iisipan habang nagbabakasyon kayo, no? Total, syempre, susunod dyan requirements, no? So, tingnan nyo na kung ang kulit naman ito. Okay. Hindi ko tuloy maklik yung aking gustong i-click. Napakadami naman itong mga istorbong ads na to. Ayan, may problema tayo sa tawag ng poma. Okay. Okay, so since natapos na natin yung ERD, no? Ang pwede nyong gawin is i-explore tong Lucidchart at itingnan nyo ng i-visualize yung magiging itsura ng inyong website, no? Kung paano nyo siya paano yung mga gagamitin nyo para sa data collection. Kung ano yung gusto nyong i-collect na data dun sa inyong gagawing website, no? Mas maganda sana kung makakapaglagay kayo ng shop kung ano man ang ibebenta nyo doon. Or pwede kayong, kung data collection, no, yung entities, halimbawa, pwede nyong gawing collection mga blog entries. Ayan, no? So, ang pag-isipan nyo na, no, i-model nyo na using ERD kung ano yung gusto nyong maging data na i-collect ng website ninyo, no? Para dun sa ating ERD, dito sa ating diniscuss, no? Para mapag-isipan nyo na kung paano siya magiging applicable dun sa ating Wix. Ano yun? Oo nga. Kaya nga tinatapos ko na eh. Sinasarado ko na, no? Binibigyan ko na kayo. Salamat, Aisha, sa pag-remind. Sinasarduhan ko na nga, ano? Dahil magsasarado ng taon, tamang-tama habang mahaba yung bakasyon, pwede nyo nang pag-isipan kung ano ang gagawin nyo doon sa inyong mga projects, no? Kaya nga kanina nagsimula ako na yung application ng ating normalization, no? In terms of paano minimize yung redundancy dun sa website, no? Now, ina-adjust ko rin, no? Dun sa ating visualization, no, ng ERD, no? Dun sa inyong magiging data collection dun sa gagawin yung website, no? So, pag-isipan nyo na yung magiging mga projects na gagawin, no? Para dun sa ating dun sa website, no? Kung paano magiging applicable itong mga napag-usapan natin, no? Ayan. So, yan yung aking pang-ending. Ha? So, meron na akong pamasko sa inyo. Pamaskong gagawin habang kayo nagbe-break. Ayan. Okay. Which is yung project nyo naman, ano? Importante yan, no? Kasi yan na yung ating magiging focus next year, no? So, yun po yung concept ng ERD. I hope naintindihan nyo, no? It's just a matter of establishing yung relationship at saka para ma-visualize nyo rin kung ano ba ang magiging relationship ng inyong mga entities, no? Yung inyong mga i-collect na data sa inyong project, no? Sa inyong website. Ayan. So, yun lamang po yung ating discussion ngayong end year, pang-ending natin sa ating sa taon ng 2021. Imagine, 2022 na next year. Diba? Natapos ang pandemic, marami tayong na-achieve ngayong taon na to. Kahit papaano, kahit pahirapan, no? Pahirapan at hindi nakikita. Hopefully next year, pagka maayos na, ang decision, I think, sa PUP, babalik sa face-to-face. So, siguro, wait lang tayo ng announcement. Pero, I'm still not sure kasi nga meron tayong meron tayong bagong virus. Pero I think they are pushing through eh. Yun yung last time na sinabi sa amin eh. Anyway, so yun lamang class. I have already explained to you the necessary requirements for your midterms, no? So please, paalala ko lang doon sa hindi pa nakakapag-submit, paki-submit na yung inyong entity, yung inyong normalization, no? Yung mga Excel, no? Pakibigay sa akin, no? Para meron akong kukumputin. Para doon sa mga hindi pa nagbibigay, pasensya na kayo kung wala kayong makukuha, wala akong makukompute para sa inyo, no? Ayan. Okay po. Yun po yung aking bilin ngayong mag-e-ending tayo. Kung meron pa po kayong question, ay inyo na pong sabihin. Tsaka kukunin ko po yung inyong screen. Ipi-print screen ko lang yung attendance natin, no? So, kung pwede pong naka-video po tayo para may mga mukha. Yung may mga mukha, okay na. Pero itong mga wala pang mukha, si Teresa Clarice, letter G lang yung nakalagay sa'yo. At saka si Kate De Matera, para maayos-ayos yung kuha. Si Margie Panimdim. Pwede na yung kay Margie. Si Shaina, medyo masyadong malapit yung kuha mo. Ayan. So, yung video. Ayan. Tapos, ayan. Okay na. Si Maria Teresa, wala bang si Clarice, wala bang video? Okay. Ayan. Ayan. Okay. Sige. Kukunan ko na ha. Aisha, wala ka sa screen. Ayan. Okay. Okay. Ngiting panalo at na magki-Christmas na yung ating mga Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you. So kung may question pa, wala na. Ayan, pwede na tayong maghiwa-hiwalay. At maligayang Pasko at madigong bagong taon sa inyong lahat. Sana maging masaya ang ating Pasko. Okay.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you po, ma'am. Merry Christmas po.
Merry Christmas po.
Merry Christmas. Sige. Ayan.
Ma'am, may time ka pa po.
Sige. Pwede pa.
Ma'am, pwede magpa-sample po ulit sa normalization.
Normalization?
Opo.
Okay. normalization. Wala ka ba nung nag-normalize tayo? Teka.
May internet ko ng
Sablay?
Hindi ko po alam kung pag naka-wifi kasi ako, ma'am, parang yung laptop ko na may problem.
Okay. Sige. May Excel ako Teka. Yung Excel ko dati, sinave ko ba yun? Documents. Downloads. Normalization. Open. Okay. Nakikita mo ba yung screen ko? Teka.
Hindi pa.
Siyempre, hindi.
Ma'am?
Oh.
Meron mga nagpasa ng assignment kahapon. Tapos kung hindi niya po daw po nasisi.
Hindi ko pa naksisi. Sige. Teka, tingnan ko na rin. Dito na rin lang ako. Okay.
Baka po, ma'am, nasa message request po.
Oo nga, baka nasa message request. Message request. Ay, ang dami. Oo nga naman. Ayan, magre-reply na ako. Kasi kanina, nung bago ako nag-start, nag-reply na ako kanina dun sa iba. Itong mga bago ngayon lang to, Teka. Ba't di ako teka, stop sharing ko muna at hindi ako makapag-comment. Ayan. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Ito, si Okay. Okay, thanks. Balikan kita, ha? Sandali lang. Okay. Okay na to. Mga bago to, Okay, thanks. Ayan, okay na. Si Menchi. Okay. Mamaya ko na to babalikan para matapos ko na si entire screen. Sige. Babalikan ko 'yan, promise. Tapos, sino nga yung nanghihingi ng doon sa normalization? Ito.
Ako po.
Ayan.
Marami kami.
Ito. So, ito yung normalization natin. Ito yung ating ino-normalize. Itong nasa taas. No? So, okay. Ito yung ating data, no? So, ang first step natin is UNF to 1NF, no? So, anong kinuha natin, no? Kinuha natin si order, si ID, order date, si customer ID, si customer name, customer address. So, ito yon, no? Kinuha natin to. So, si order ID, order date, customer ID, customer name, customer address. So, i-copy mo lang siya. Okay. Ay, sorry. Enable editing. Ayan. Ayun, no? Okay. So, next. Kunin mo naman si next. So, si UNF, UNF going to INF, nag-i-establish ka ng magkakasamang table, no? Ayan. So, next, kukunin mo ngayon si product ID, no? So, ito yung magkakasama, si product ID, product finish, at saka si unit price, no? Okay. Copy. Ayan. Tapos, si order detail, okay, order ID, no? Nasaan si order ID? Undo.
Po.
Yes.
Ma'am, paano po namin malalaman kung paano po namin mas better na ma-identify kung alin po yung mga data na dapat kasama?
Okay. Simply put, Halimbawa, katulad nito, no, napakadaling establish no, no. Yung relationship nito, no, dun sa order, no, katulad nito, yung order, yung ating primary key, no, nakapoint siya sa order, no. Lahat ng pertaining sa order, katulad nito, order ID, order date, no, ay magkakasama. Si customer, nakarelate siya sa order kasi dun sa order na in-order niya, no? So, yun yung, kasi first NF lang pa yon, no? So, magkaka-relate sila, no? Ito, secondary. Secondary, no? So, kaya magkakasama silang lahat dito, no? Yung relationship nung dalawa, no? Nung order at saka customer. Kaya magkasama sila. Ito, si product, madali to dahil, syempre, si product, magkakasama sila, si product description, product finish, at saka si unit price, no? Tapos, dito sa huli, itong si order detail, at saka si product, kasi, yung order ID, naka-relate siya dun sa product ID. In terms of quantity, no? Ayan. So, sino ang nagbabind dito sa dalawa na to? Yung quantity, no? Dun sa order ID na to, ano ang kinuha niyang product, ano ang quantity, no? Kaya sila yung tatlong huli. Ayan. So, yun yung in-establish na relationship, no? First level, no? 1NF. Ayan. UNF to 1NF. Ayan. So,
Ma'am, pwede po magtanong?
Yes.
Ma'am, dito po sa 1NF, paano po ba ako, personally, paano ko po malalaman na yun yung, etong nasa gilid ng first column, yung primary key na dapat parang dapat na isaalang-alang ko for me to know kung ano yung, kung saan group siya, or kung saan group ko isasama.
Kaya nga, ito na nga yung sinasabi ko. Ang unang first na titingnan nyo is yung ano yung relationship nila, no? In terms of the primary. Katulad nito, secondary relationship, o kumbaga para siyang dependent siya. Yung customer, nakadependent siya doon sa order, no? So, yan yung first na pwede mong i-establish, no? Okay. Kasi, dependent siya dito, no? Magkadikit sila. Ito rin, napakasimple na to kasi kumbaga, dito sa second level, nakikita nyo bang nagmo-move yung aking arrow? Nakikita?
Opo.
Okay, nakikita nyo. So, ibig sabihin, dito sa product na to, no? Dito sa product na to, ang daling i-establish yung relationship kasi, kumbaga, yung product, meron siyang product description, may product finish, product price. Pero dito sa ating order, no? Kailangan mong i-identify yung kanyang dependent, no? Kumbaga dito yung dependent, no? Ang dependent dito is yung customer, no? Si order, ang dependent niya is si customer. Sila yung parang magkasama. Dito, do sa order detail, no? Ang dependent niya ay si quantity, no? Si product, ang dependent niya ay si quantity. Ayun. So, yun yung best way para mapagsama nyo kung sino yung magkadikit. Kung sino yung magsasama-sama into a group, no? Lalo na pagka kailangan nyo identify kung sino yung ka-dependent niya, no? Doon sa order ng table, no? So, dito sa first order ng table, syempre, titingnan mo from left to right, sinong una, no? Okay, sinong unang dependent kay order, no? So, syempre, si customer, no? Ayan. Tapos, so, natapos mo na yung first order. Second order, si product, no? So, si product na yon, no? And then, sa third order, si order, kanino pa siya pwedeng, si order ID, kanino pa siya pwedeng maging dependent, no? So, si product ID, no? Kasi, dahil kay quantity, dito sa dulo. Ayun. Yun. So, una muna, kung gusto niyo yung pagkakasunod-sunod, yung from left to right, sino yung una, next. Itong dalawa na to, magkadikit, si customer tsaka si order. That's the first. And then, yung second table natin, syempre magkakadikit yan, no? That's the second. And then, you go by, after na run through mo na yung isang pasada, titingnan mo ngayon in your next pasada kung sino yung next na dependent, which is yung ating ID. Dependent siya sa quantity. And then, si product ID, titingnan mo kung saan siya nakadependent doon sa quantity. Ayun. So, ganun po siya, no? By level, no? You go one moving, no? First movement, order at saka si customer, and then next movement, product ID to yung dun sa kanilang product description. Tapos next, balik ka uli kay order ID, kanino pa siya dependent? Kay customer quantity. Tapos si product ID, kanino pa siya dependent? Kay unit quantity, and then pinagsama mo sila into one table. Yun. Yun po. So, ang order niya, yung order lang ng from left to right kung sino yung mauna. Tapos, pag nakuha mo na lahat, no, yun na yung last, yung titingnan mo yung dependency ni order kay, tsaka si product ID kay unit quantity. Ayun. Siya yung last. By dependence.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Yung sa yung sa dependency po nung sa order ID, tapos product ID, lagi po bang huli yung dependency nung kunyari po yung for example po dito, unit quantity?
Oo.
Lagi po siyang huli?
Kung sino po yung nandun sa dulo, kasi nga, ang order ng natin, ang database, pag nagbabasa from left to right, no? Papasadahan niya from left to right, no? Pababa. Pag nagbasa ganito, no? Paganyan, tapos paganyan, no? Paganyan, no? Hindi siya nagbabasa ng pa-vertical, hindi pa ganun ang basa niya. Ang basa niya pa ganun. Kaya pagka ka ng pati dun sa pag-check ng database ng integrity, ganun din, no? Ng constraint, no? So, pag i-declare niya yung mga, ng database, pa ganun din. Kaya, yung dulo, siya yung huli na nakikita. Kaya, lagi siyang nasa dulo.
Okay po. Thank you po, ma'am.
So, ang mga database, pag nagbabasa, no? Laging pa ganun, no? Pa ganyan, no? Magsisimula dito sa 1, tapos hanggang sa dulo ng na yon, and then saka siya pupunta sa line 3, pa ganun, no? So, kaya pag nagbabasa from left to right, no, kung ano yung una niyang makikita dyan, saka siya pupunta dun sa dulo, no? Ayun, ganun. Kaya ganun yung process. Pagdating sa pagbasa mismo ng database. Kaya yung rule niya, nasa dulo itong unit quantity. Kung sino man yung nasa dulo, whether it's unit quantity or unit price, halimbawa, nagbali-baliktad, it will always be the one in the last. Siya yung huli na i-consider. Okay po.
Okay po, ma'am.
Nagets po. Ganun po kasi magbasa yung database. Kaya ganun.
Thank you po.
Okay. So, yun po yung ating UNF. Tapos, so yan yung unang sala. So, ito na yung ating 1NF to 2NF, no? So, ano nangyaring next, no? Pinag-combine si order date, order ID, at saka si customer ID, no? Para mas lalong masala, no? Ito na yung, again, ulit tayo mula dito, pag ganun, no? And then next, si product ID, product description. Ayan. And then si order detail, ganon. Ito yan, no, si order detail, no. Ayan. Inulit niya lang. And then si customer ID, mas lalo niyang pinaliit, no. Pinagsama-sama lahat ng sa customer. No? Ini-separate niya, no. Nagkaroon siya ng sarili niyang entity. Okay? Ayan. So, yan po yung nangyari sa next. Etong last, okay, mas lalo pang pinerefine dito sa ating 3NF. You have here the order detail, quantity. Mas lalo siyang pinapino, no? Pinaliit, no? And then, order table, kasama si customer ID, and then you have your product, and then yung customer ID. Tapos, nilinis mo siya. Tinanggal mo yung mga double entries, no? Okay. So, yun lang po siya. Ganun lang kasimple, no? Yung ating dito. Okay. So, dapat ito tinanggal. Sorry, hindi ko to na-save. Ito, wala. Hindi. Kasi, hindi sila pareho, no? Magkaiba sila, no? So, magkakaiba to lahat, no? Okay. Ayan. So, malinis na to. Tinanggal lang natin yung ating mga double entries. Ayun. Okay. Hanggang sa matanggal mo lahat ng double entry. So, it's a matter of associating the table to one another so that you can remove the random the duplicates. Ayan. Okay. Okay. Yun po. Ayan. Merry Christmas din. Okay. May mga comment, binasa ko lang. So, kumusta po? Naintindihan nyo na po yung normalization. Actually, in simple terms, it's just a matter of trying, it's the way of the database trying to establish constraint, integrity constraint para ma-remove yung redundancy. Pero actually, in application, mas strict yung yung ating database sa application, no? Katulad ni Access. Actually, hindi ka makakapag-enter ng double entries kasi doon pa lang sa pag-enter mo, nakikita niya na, no? So, meron ng integrity constraint. Ito, magandang gamitin nating sample tong Excel. Dahil hindi niya i-stop yung ating mga double entries. Pero doon sa database mismo, no? And again, I am telling you, the database is working in the background, no? It has rules much stricter ng ating ginamit dito, no? Para dun sa normalization kasi umaabot siya hanggang BCNF, no? At yung rules niya, same thing, no? From left to right, depende kung ano yung consideration, basta mas nga yun kumbaga lahat na ng table pinagsama-sama niya para makita niyo yung mga randomized data, no? Ayan. Dito sa atin, medyo may issue yung natin kasi meron tayong mga null, katulad nito null, no? So, pagdating sa interpretation. But, ito yung ina-concept ng normalization. Ayan. Okay. So, ganun lang siya kasimple, no? Para lang naiintindihan nyo kung paano nagno-normalize. Actually, sa background, nagra-run lang siya sa background At tinatanggal niya mismo yung mga random objects. Pero may mga database na hindi masyadong strict, katulad nun sa SAMP, yung ipinakita ko sa inyo kanina, no? So, tayo pa yung nag-delete ng ating double entries. Ayan. Okay. So, yun lang po yung ating normalization. Hope na nagets nyo na yung concept ng normalization. Okay na? Naintindihan na po. Abi. Andiyan ka pa ba? Abi.
Opo, ma'am.
Okay. So gets nyo na. Gets nyo na yung normalization, no? Actually, madali na yung explanation na ginawa ko sa inyo Kung gagamitin natin sa database, medyo mas strict kasi dun sa database at saka medyo mas pero in the same way, ganun din naman, no? From left to right, tapos yung pinakadulo yung kino-consider ng ruling nung sa integrity constraint ng database. Yeah. Okay. Ako sa inyo, huwag nyo masyadong heavy na intindihin. Baka kasi masiraan kayo ng bait. Yung sa database kasi, nagra-run lang siya sa background. Ang akin lang, ine-explain ko lang sa inyo paano nagno-normalize, no? And different database have a different way of handling it, no? But that is the best way. Dun sa access, ganun din siya, no? From left to right, pababa, by row, no? Ganun din yung rules nila, no? Pero merong mas stricter pa para doon, no? Pwedeng pagsama-samahin ibang tables. But in a concept, ganun yung yung normalization. Yeah.
Apo. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So, gets nyo na? Okay na? Ayan, hindi na kayo nalilito. Medyo nakakalito siya talaga, pero just in the background, the database is working. And for you to know how to normalize is already a good thing, no? Kasi medyo mahirap talagang i-conceptualize yung yung kung paano yung i-apply siya. Pero ang importante sa akin na intindihan nyo kung ano yung ginagawa ng normalization, which is to what? To minimize redundancy. Yeah, yun ang importante doon. Kasi kahit sa totoo lang, in actual application, pagka ginagamit yung normalization, lalo na kung merong milyon-milyones na random data, lalo na pagka yung nag-a-apply nagagamit ng database, hindi may mga tables. Imagine niyo kung may rules ka na null tapos walang laman, mas lalong masakit, no? Mas lalong kailangan i-normalize, no? And sa amin, doon sa aming paglilinis ng database, and we really have to go through each table and associate each table to whichever it is associated to. So, mas madugo yun, no? Yun yung paglilinis ng database na minsan mas mataas pa, BCNF. And you have to really check kung tama ba yung mo. Kasi minsan may mga data na hindi dapat napapasama, no? So, but in a concept, ganun lang kasimple yung yung normalization. Pero sa application, mas strict pa yung pagsasama-sama ng mga table, lalo na kung marami ka nang lilinisin, no? Pero in a concept, ganun, no? Basta si database mismo, bibigyan mo lang siya ng mga fields na kung ano yung kanyang pagsasama-samahin, no? Ayun. So, yun yung concept ng normalization. Okay na? Yun lamang po. So, I hope na nagets nyo. Medyo nakakalito talaga siya. Pero, ginawa ko na lang simple para sa inyo, para magets nyo lang. Pero in the background, hindi nyo naman kailangang yun eh. Kung gusto nyong mag-specialize ng normalization, siguro magiging database, kayo, administrator, ayun. Kailangan nyo talagang, kailangan nyo mag-aral, mag-code, no? Yung coding nun, merong mga special code na ginagamit, yung CRUDs, para mas malinis. Pero yung concept ng normalization, ganun lang kasimple siya. Pero pagka gusto mo ng malinis na malinis talaga, kailangan pa ng mas mataas na yung BCNF. Yeah. Okay. Ayan. Na-excite kayo sa normalization.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sige. Okay, Merry Christmas, ha? O, ayan, yung mga projects nyo, pwede nyo nang pag-isipan, ha? Ayan. Okay.
Sige po.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, sige.
Opo.
Wala nang tanong, ha? Sige.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye po.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you po.
Thank you po.
Sige. Okay. Wandy. Aisha. Salamat. Ilan absent?
Si Franz po, ma'am, ang nag-list.
Si Franz. Paki-post sa ha? Sa GC.
Okay po, sabihin ko po sa kanya. Okay. Thank you po.
Salamat.
And call ko na po.
Okay, and okay, next class. Nako, alas 10 na next class ko. Nasaan na yung aking next class? Anong next class ko? Teka. Saan? 10. Yung next class ko. Nasaan si ano? Sino to? 4-2D. Sino yung 4-2D? Teka. 4-2D. Ayan, 4-2D. Si Edna Shane. Nasaan na si Edna Shane? Okay. Klase na pala ako. Nasa na si Shane. Ask to join. Asa na? Shane!
Good morning.
may ano lang ako dun sa kabilang klase. Ngayon lang kami natapos. Ano ba yan? Okay. Normalization. Entity. Okay. Teka lang, tatanggalin ko lang to. Okay. Alright. Hello! Merry Christmas! Happy New Year! Pasko na! Ayan. Okay. So, class, kompleto na kayo? Nasaan na sila?
Po, ma'am. Kulang pa po, ma'am. 28 pa lang po.
28
Merry Christmas din po.
Merry Christmas! Happy New Year! O, diba? Ang saya-saya. Matatapos na ang ating taon. Okay. O, sige. Total, nandito na kayo. Tayo ay sarduhan ko nga itong blue stocks na to. Okay. Close. Yung aking mga estudyante na-excite sa normalization. Ayan. Okay. Ayan. Ang daming nagsisend na ng okay. I-brush up nyo nga ako. Ano nangyari last time? Ano bang pinag-usapan natin last time? Kayo ay nag-normalize, correct? Tama? Tama ba?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay. Tapos, ayan. Tinitingnan ko yung ating GC. Yung GC. Ando may mga nag-submit ng ano, ng normalize. Okay. So, kung nag-normalize tayo, pwede na tayong ano, mag-move on sa ano, ERD. Okay. Tama. Okay. Right. Okay. So, ayan. Good. Okay. Or gusto nyo isa pang normalization? Na-excite din kayo sa normalization. Mag-normalize pa tayo ng isa. Okay na. Ayaw nyo na. Yung isang klase ko talagang in-specialize nila yung normalization. Inabot ako hanggang 10 o'clock. 10:30. Bago ako nakahiwalay sa kanila. Ayan. type na type nila si normalization. Okay. Okay. So, di na tayo magmumove na ako kay kay ERD. Si ERD mas masaya to kaysa kay normalization. Ayan. Okay. So, 36. Ayan, nagdadatingan na sila. Okay. Okay. So, habang tayong nag-iintay, ako ay mag-a-announce na rin para para alam nyo kung anong mangyayari. Okay. So, yung pong inyong pinaka-midterm sa akin ay yung inyong sinubmit na normalization, no? At saka yung mga activities na nagpa-participate kayo previously, no? 'Di ba? Na naggawa tayo ng access. Ayan. Yung mga sinishare niyo sa akin, meron naman tayong video. Okay. Ayan, no? Ayan. Okay. So, yan. So, yun po yung inyong midterms. So, wala na po tayong hindi na po tayo mag-exam ng midterms. Okay. Yung inyong pinaka-midterm sa akin, yung inyong mga participation at saka yung normalization na sinubmit nyo, no? So, dun sa hindi pa nakakapag-submit ng inyong mga gawa na normalization, no? Itong mga nag-post dito, yung hindi pa nakakapag-post ng gawa nila, paki-post na po. No? Para malaman ko naman kung gumawa talaga kayo, no? Ayan. Pwede na yung ayan, marami nang nag-submit dito, Paki-send na lang po yung inyong mga gawa doon sa ating GC. Ayan.
Ma'am, may question po.
Yes.
Kahit po mga nag-screen share po last time, isa-submit na rin po sa GC?
Oo, isa. Yung hindi pa nag-aano dito. Oo, yung mga hindi, yung nag-screen share, pwedeng grab nyo yung screen tapos i-share nyo dito. Para magiging basis ko siya. Baka kasi malimutan ko. Ayan. Yun na yung inyong midterms. Kasi gusto kong mag-focus dun sa project, no? May project na kayo eh. Ayan. So, habang naghihintay tayo, explain ko na rin, no? Dun sa application, no? Yung, lagi ko nang sinasabi, di ba? Yung practical application ng inyong database pagdating dun sa inyong project, no? Teka lang. Mas mabuting i-share ko na lang para nasa na yung screen na ito. Ay, nasa browser pala yung no? Hindi nakalagay sa app. Sige. Entire screen. Okay. So, habang naghihintay tayo sa mga klase ninyo, ay pag-usapan na natin tong ating klase. Okay, so yung application ni normalization, total mag-move on na tayo kay normalization, no? Teka. Already running. Ay, hindi ko na-end. Teka. Teka. Hindi ko pa na-end yung hide. Please. Hindi yan. Teka lang. Teka, i-end ko lang yung video nila. Ay, hindi ko pala na-done.